in the past, I just go live straight on YouTube. So I've
Okay.
spent my week looking up tutorials on how to, because I'm going live with someone on my channel for the first time.
Oh,
So
I must say I'm indeed fortunate.
I think we're live. Have we gone live?
Okay. Looks like it says he's now streaming live.
Um, Yes, we're live. Yeah. So for everyone, here's some context. It's the first time where I'm trying to go live along with someone on the YouTube channel. So before we actually start talking about everything that I do want to talk about, I think it's fair that I start with introducing Namrata Jain. So here's a little context for everyone who's here already. We're 2 minutes earlier than planned, and I'm looking at the chat over here, but I want to start off with introducing Namrata because I feel like she's our guest of honor today. So Namrata Jain is a Tedx speaker. She's a counseling psychologist, a life coach. She's been an expressive arts therapist and wellness coach. She's also been recognized as the director of relations for India by the Global Goodwill Ambassadors, which is a US based organization, and has also been awarded the most promising counselor and psychologist of the year 2018. And I've had the good fortune of meeting her, knowing her, and actually I've attended a couple of her events in the past as well, which makes you, Namrata, the right candidate for me to do this with, because I have to admit,
Thank you so much.
coming live on YouTube in general is one thing, and coming live to talk about mental health is something that left me with like a little bit of nervousness because I was like, this feels like a lot of responsibility. So I need to bring on like a qualified expert. Um, and I think that since it's World Mental Health Day, I couldn't think of anyone else but you to have over here on my channel. So welcome and thank you for coming, first off.
Thank you so much, Anam. And I must say that, you talk about those topics which not many people talk about, which is, I think, as an influencer, as somebody who's constantly been in the space of helping people around in various fields, I mean, of course, you're mainly someone to do with lifestyle and beauty blogging, but I think you cover almost anything and everything that connects to the population who's or your followers, I must say, and people love you indeed. I keep following a lot of your content, a lot of beauty tips, sometimes a lot of to do with clothing, sometimes a lot to do with Chashmaranjan. I think a lot of sharing that you do is really, really inspiring for a lot of people, not just for me, but I'm sure a lot of people love you, and it's so kind of you to actually connect us. So connect me here on this platform with you. I should share that, Anam is being very kind right now because she's actually been a speaker at one of my events where I had her talk on behalf of all of you guys who are connected to her. And she always has been very supportive when it comes to mental health. And that's what I think, again, we are here today to speak about. So thank you so much, Anam, for inviting me. I look forward to this.
Thank you. Thank you. We're seeing the chat has a lot of stuff going on the side. Guys, please feel free to go ahead and send in your questions, ask questions as and when you think of something. We want to try and answer as many questions as we can within the time we have. But without wasting any time, Namta, I feel I have to ask you the first question over here. And I want to ask you that with the field you're in, and basis the current scenario of the society, I feel like there's one half of the society that's becoming very accepting of yes, there are mental health issues, one must be empathetic and one must kind of nurture and give love. And then I feel like there's this other side of people that still exists, that think that kind of go with the stigma about mental health, that think that if you need mental help, tum pagal ho. How does one deal with that? Because I have so many friends who talk about their anxiety and their stress, and then they have certain members of their family who don't completely support the idea of getting help. And some people are like, nahi, ab tak meri halat utni kharab nahi hai that I need help. And my response is always, what are you waiting for? Are you waiting for it to get bad? It's like, are you waiting for it to get to surgery level when you can just take the antibiotics if it was physical health and well-being?
Right.
So what is your take on that?
So let me tell you one thing, from the very ancient times in India, I think there was always this culture that was followed, which was of a guru shishya. At that time we had a guru shishya relationship where, you know, any and every person would share whatever's going on in their life or wherever they are having challenges. They would share it with a guru who's actually an expert in understanding life, understanding human mind, understanding the patterns that one is going through. And that is how one would seek help at that time. But as we switched from the Indian culture to a lot the Western culture, of course, a lot of things changed. Our education style changed. A lot of thought processes changed. And I must say that, you know, today the Western culture is more accepting of this than our culture. But I would say that, like, you know, we keep on learning from each other. I see that a lot has improved right now. The younger population definitely is accepting this to a very great level. They do understand. I have a lot of youth who come to me, and I see that they do understand that there is something that they really need to seek help for. A lot of times, when it comes to parents or grandparents, or, you know, people who are not very open towards understanding about what exactly mental health is, I would say don't think of it as a challenge, but think of it as an opportunity to educate them, you know, to educate them of what really is happening right now and how this really needs to be something that we talk about. So don't feel discouraged when somebody, so because the thought process and maybe the kind of background that they have been brought up in may be very different. So it's no point us blaming that they are not understanding it. I would rather say think of a way of actually educating them in that space so that we are able to all work on it together and get the person whoever is suffering from out of it. Which now there are a lot of awareness programs that are happening. I see anywhere and everywhere mental health is being spoken about right now, because families are all together by themselves, locked in homes. I think media is playing an important role, though it's playing both the sides of the role. But I think there's still a little bit of awareness saying that people are suffering, and there are a lot of people who are committing suicide also because of the suffering. So there is a little sensitivity that is being developed, and I'm glad. And, you know, we have so many influencers like Anam also speaking about it, which is very, very important. And I think we all must keep continue doing this until it comes to a stage where it becomes a part of our lives. It, like how we go to a doctor if we are having, you know, any kind of cough, cold, fever. It's not, it's a little away from the normal. Whenever you feel that you're feeling a little away from the normal and it's affecting your mental health, don't wait for it to go to a level where you need medication. Please seek help much before that, because the, you know, the smaller the issue is, the easier it is to resolve than going in for something which is more severe.
We have Inderji telling us in the chat that she loved your explanation, and a bunch of people who are saying that they agree. You know, I've mentioned this earlier on my channel. Earlier, in the sense, I think I actually came out and started talking about it just last year. That I went through a really low phase a few years ago, maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, and for a very long time, you know, I told myself, no, I'm stronger. I'll be fine. I'll get over it. I'll get over it. And then at some point in 2018 is when, for the first time ever, I said, okay, you know what? I think I need to get help, because as much as I think I'm strong, life isn't about testing your strength. It's about that if you feel there are weak moments, and if you can go out there and just get that help, get that relief, right? Like for me, I feel that sitting with your therapist and just that 1 hour session of just venting or talking is one of the most liberating feelings ever. So I feel like more people need to understand that. And I also sometimes joke about this. I don't know how appropriate it is to say this, but I very often joke and say, if the people who needed to get help would get the help, then the people who don't need to get help would not be sitting with the therapist.
You know,
I joke
yesterday,
about this very often.
I got a new joke yesterday, you know, where I say that how important is fafda and dhokla for Gujaratis. That's important how mental health has to be for us now, you know. We've come to a stage where life has a lot of challenges that it throws to us. And I think we've not been trained from childhood how to handle those challenges. Only if we get a little training, life becomes way more easier, you know. So I yesterday I was just thinking, and I said, yeah, Fafda and Dokla is very, very close to Gujaratis. I think mental health has to become like that in our lives now, because there's external environment which we can't have any control on. But if we just, you know, strengthen the inner self a little more, I think it will become far more easier.
I agree. There's a really interesting in the chat from Ria. She's saying, I've been told that this is like a web where once you get help, there's no looking back. You keep wanting to run to your therapist for every small thing. Is that true? This is a really interesting question.
It is indeed, and a very good question. Thank you, Ria, for asking. This is one of the reasons why there are a lot of training programs now starting for psychologists, because the reason being that it's important. And more than the psychologist, you also must take care whenever you visit a therapist to not develop dependency. I think a lot of transference and counter transference happens between therapists and the coach and the coachee. The reason is because you have this tendency to want to go and seek the support of this one person at all times. But remember, you got to take in whatever you can and then start applying it on your own. There is a tendency in the beginning, and like for example, when I take therapy in the beginning, I do tell my clients for a month and a half, make sure that you consult me for every small things that are happening, because they are at a very severe stage. But post that, if you see, I start reducing the number of sessions. So it's of course the therapist's responsibility here to a very great extent to make sure that the counselee is not being taken in a direction of dependency. So absolute onus, 90% of the onus is on the therapist. And I think most therapists today take care of that because they are aware and they don't want that to happen. There could be a few therapists who aren't that trained enough and are still learning, and maybe a little more training is required there. So I absolutely buy your point, Priya, and I agree it's important.
I think that somewhere your own personality also has something to go for that. It's like
Yeah.
saying when you like, I don't know if this is a fair comparison, but like for example, for a very short period at a point last year, I went to a dietitian, and then suddenly came to a point where for every meal that was not part of my plan, I would text her and be like, can I eat this? Can I eat this? And then I stopped myself. I said, listen, I will drive myself nuts if I keep reaching out to her for everything. Somewhere you kind of have to apply your own learnings from life and find that restraint or
Yeah.
make note and say, okay, when I go to him or her or them next, I will ask this then. But I want to pick up another question that I'm seeing on the chat, which is from Khyati Patel. And Khyati, your question hits the mark. It was going to be my next question to Namrata, and you have already asked it over here, which I love. She asks, "What's the difference between a psychologist and a psychiatrist?" And I read the book by. I'm sure you've read it as well. I've never been unhappier, which is a book by Shaheen. But when I was reading that book, Namrata, there was so much I could relate to it. Like I have goosebumps right now. And in one of the in one of the on one of the pages in the book, she actually mentions the difference between
Yeah, very
a
important.
psychologist and a psychiatrist. Yes, so if you could please throw some light on that for everyone over here, because I understand that this is a very commonly confused
Right.
concept from one to another.
Right. So understand one thing, okay? A psychologist comes from a therapeutic qualification and somebody who's trained for therapy purely. A psychiatrist, on the other hand, is trained from a medical field. So a psychologist comes from the humanities space of training. A psychiatrist comes from the medical space of training. Okay, so the psychiatrist will always do an MBBS and then do an MD in psychiatry. A psychologist will do a BA in psychology and then a master's in psychology. Okay, so there's a difference in the degree first. Second is what is the role that they play. Okay, so let me tell you what the role a psychiatrist plays. Okay, a lot of psychiatrists are also trained in psychotherapy sometimes, but however, their primary role is of understanding the chemicals and the biological side of the illness that you're facing. So whenever you have any concern which is moved from a moderate to a severe concern, basically it's something that is not only dependent on your thought process, but has now reached a stage where that pattern has gotten into changing a lot of things in your neurotransmitters, which are the chemicals. Okay, that's the time when a psychiatrist has to enter the space and you have to get medication. So in simple language, whenever there is medication involved is when you have to go to a psychiatrist or you consult a psychiatrist. On the other hand, and they always deal with issues which are from moderate to severe, so anything to do with depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, OCD, or bipolar disorders, any of these disorders, when they reach a stage where just therapy is not going to help, you have to go for medication. Okay. Coming to a psychologist, and what role does a psychologist play? A psychologist basically no medication. Okay, it's zero medication, because they are not qualified to actually prescribe any sort of medication to you, though they learn a lot of the biological side, but however they are not qualified to prescribe a medication. If ever you see a psychologist giving you medication, kindly do not take those medication unless and until your psychiatrist approves of it. Okay. A psychologist will generally use a lot of therapy, which means that they will understand your patterns, your thought process, your belief systems, and help you make changes in that direction, so that you are able to deal with your illness. Because whatever you are going through right now, and not even illnesses, but general challenges that you face, for example, your relationship issues that you're having, or you're having a lot of issues with your friends or your parents, or you're having low self-esteem issues, or you're not being able to handle your work-life balance, any of these, or maybe you're just in the initial stage of eating disorders, or you have a low self body image. Now, any of these concerns, you first always visit a psychologist. They will help you deal with it through therapy. In case if the psychologist feels, and they're trained enough to understand this, if they feel that you need to visit a psychiatrist, they will definitely refer you to a psychiatrist. So that's the basic difference between a psychologist and a psychiatrist. I hope that's clear enough for you guys. In case if you have questions, let me know.
Yes, please ask on the side. I'm keeping up with the chat. I'm also taking notes that some of you have sent in, because the chat is moving up fairly fast. So I don't want to miss some of the good questions I'm seeing on the side. So one pattern I'm seeing in the questions here, and I will come to the questions that we collected from Instagram stories a couple of days ago, is things to do with not having been given importance to mental health as people were growing up. Like what I'm seeing in the chat is people talking about how parents didn't necessarily give it that much importance. We have someone who's saying, why is it so underrated? A child's mental health is important, but the concept doesn't exist for a lot of people. And what are your thoughts on that? Personally, I mean, I feel like we've covered a part of this where we're saying that there is a change, and we're seeing that change in pattern in general. But the more we learn to educate ourselves and educate the ones around us, I feel like that will help push the pattern change faster. Do
See,
you have
there's
any
one way.
specific suggestions?
Yeah, see, there's one way to look at a situation is that you will blame the fact that they have not been educated. So I would say, rather than getting into that space, because that's past and we can't do much about that, right? They have not been trained fair enough, and there's nothing that we can do right now about it. I would say, why not we become a part of the change making process, where you start talking about it, and talk about it in a very general way. Don't talk about your concern directly to your parents. Okay, if you feel that parents are not able to understand, share stories and experiences of other people first. You will have to sensitize them towards the issue, help them empathize with people who are going through something like that, and then gradually, when, like, see, I come from a Marwadi family, and it wasn't easy because they don't understand any of these things either. They come from a thought process which is very cultural and very typical, coming from a very cultural background overall. But what I did is, when I started my college, and they didn't understand the fact that I wanted to become a psychologist, even that was something that I had to convince them for. So but what I realized at that time is that the more that I was sharing with my mom was what is happening and what I do and what I learn, and how people are going through what they're going through and all, today is far easier for them to understand. So I think it's a lot of our responsibility also in terms of educating our parents, because they don't go out to get themselves educated on this now. We have the access to all of these resources to educate ourselves, and it's our responsibility to share it with them as well. So if you start doing that, you'll see that a lot of things will start changing too.
That's so true. I think Bhupali raises a really good point in the chat. She says that this generation is just extremely stressed. She's someone who reads books, but somehow this generation finds it difficult to share what's actually going on in our lives, which kind of also leads me to Afia's question from the chat, where she says, what does one do about insecurities? Because, and I agree with what they're saying, because I feel like we're that generation where we're so clued into what's happening in people's lives through social media, and it's so easy to assume that everyone else is happy, but I have problems in my life. But there are insecurities, and this is a stressed out generation. How does one overcome that? How does one overcome that feeling that, oh, I'm the only person who's going through this, which is not true. All of us are in one way or another. But how does one deal with that?
Right. So, first and foremost, what's important is to accept that you're going through something. A lot of people are also in denial that they're really facing any sort of insecurity. They feel that they're perfect in the space that they are in. But understand what are your patterns going on, and then make sure that you first accept that, okay, there's something going on. I think another thing that really, really helps is to start journaling every day. I think that helps us get our thoughts more clear, because we are bombarded with thoughts, okay, from media, from social media, from friends, from family. Everyone has a different opinion, and we are bombarded with all those thoughts, and somewhere I would say that everybody is hiring us for their own thought. Okay, you have to be very, very careful that we are getting hired every moment from some or the other media or people around us, and you have to be very careful of that, that you go back at the end of the day, journal what you've written down, and understand whether is that your thought process or is that somebody else's thought process that you have taken in. You got to be very, very aware of that, because the current scenario is such, we are kind of surrounded with that sort of technology around us, where everything is in front of us about every person. I'm sure in the olden days it wasn't that much of a trouble, because we didn't have everything in front of us on the screen about other people. But right now it is, and something that's unavoidable. I'd say use social media as a tool for taking good things into your life, and not getting into a space where you're taking things which are affecting you negatively. Okay, be aware of that. Awareness is the key mainly to all these things, is to become aware of what is it that's leading to this kind of thought process. Is this originally your thought process, or is this somebody else's thought that's actually coming onto you? And then the moment you will make that separate, or separate that while you write in your journal, you'll understand, and it'll become far more easier to sail through. Okay, the third thing what's important is to make sure that the food you eat, you really take care of. Okay, because food decides, so they say, right, what you eat, you are what you eat. So your food has a lot of impact on you. So the times when you're feeling really, really low, you will feel like eating chocolates, you'll feel like having coffee, you'll feel like having pizzas, burgers, but that's the time you must not have them. That's the time you got to keep that content of junk food a little on the side and focus more on the healthy food. And I'll tell you a little scientific background for this, so that you actually understand why I'm saying this. I'm not just saying it, but this has science behind it. 80% of our neurotransmitters which balance our moods are produced in our gut. So keeping your gut flora good is very, very important. And if you keep that good, your balancing of moods will become way more easier. When there are low times already happening externally, you are eating junk food, that means you're not giving the right kind of flora to your gut, which in turn is going to get your moods imbalanced even further, leading to a lot more trouble. So try avoid eating avoid eating that kind of food at that time. Last, what is the most important is to seek help. If you really feel that this has been going on for a very long time and you're not being able to break out of this pattern, sometimes it's fine to just hold somebody's hand so that they can pull you out of that, and I'm sure you'll be able to sail through it much more easily.
Thank you. I have to say that, journaling is something I endorse a lot. I have this series on my channel called Self Care Sundays. And this is a series where I basically
So
talk
sweet.
about my life experiences. And I always make it a point to add, like, a list of, the iCal crowdsourced list of
Right,
therapists from all
right,
over the
right.
countries in it. So I
Yeah,
always make sure to link that in the info box, because I always say I can come and share my experiences and help you, probably even give advice through my experiences, but I'm not a
correct.
qualified therapist. I can't at any point of time be responsible to tell you exactly what to do. Of course, guys, I will leave Namrata's email address in the info box so you guys can reach out to her. So I love that you said journaling, because that's something that I personally find extremely stress relieving. Yashi Bhardwaj, thank you so much for your super chat, guys. I really appreciate the support towards my channel when you guys do this. Her question is, she says, welcome to Where Fam, Namrata Ji. Where Fam is what I call my subscribers and follow a lot. She says,
How
I have a
sweet.
question for you. How do you let go of someone when it comes to a friendship or a relationship? This is a really big question that she's asked over here.
So, I mean, I can also talk a lot about my personal experiences in this of letting go a lot of people in my life when I really needed to do that. But let me tell you, the key to this is self-love. There's nothing beyond self-love. Loving somebody else will happen only when you genuinely have self-love for yourself. And trust me, guys, don't choose anybody else other than yourself as the first priority at all times. I mean, it's great to share love with people, but we can share love with people only when we have a lot more love for ourselves. So the fact that you're clinging on to somebody else constantly and not being able to let them go when you know it's time to let them go means that somewhere your love for yourself is low currently, and you need to work around that. Also involve yourself in the kind of things that makes you feel more connected to yourself. Start doing the things that you loved to do, because I've seen often, and because I'm a relationship counselor, I've seen often that people have this tendency to leave everything on a side and give all their attention to their relationship. I mean, it's good to give attention to your relationship, be there, share good moments with that person. However, please keep your individual side as intact and don't let that go. Get in touch with people who were really close to you, who understand you, who you can spend time with, do activities that you really, really love to do. For some time, even disconnect from the person completely. If you feel that you're finding it hard to let go, I think it's important to completely disconnect, because out of sight is out of mind. And if that person is going to be in your sight, and if you're going to go on Instagram or Facebook and check that person's profile regularly just to know what's happening, trust me, it's going to be even more difficult for you, because somewhere jealousy will come in, envy will come, competition will come in. I mean, we don't want to go through all of that, right? We don't deserve that at the end of the day. It's good to love yourself, to not let yourself go through that if you know that all of that is following. So try and move all of that aside and start a fresh journey, because every morning somewhere we are gifted with a new day to start afresh. So make this a commitment to yourself to get onto a journey of self-love, rather than, giving all your time and attention to somebody who doesn't have a future with you either.
As Samantha Jones said in Sex and the City, I love you, but I love me more. And
Yes.
it's a bitter thing to say to someone, but sometimes you just have to say it, and it's a huge life lesson. I feel like self-love is a journey. It's a process. You may love yourself in general. You can't just wake up one day and say मैं खुद की priority हूँ. It's a process to be able to. नहीं होता है. I wish हो सकता, but नहीं होता है. I quickly just want to share screen, and I hope that this reflects on YouTube as well, because like I said, this is the first time I'm doing a Zoom via live. So I have taken the liberty of blocking out all of the names, which I hope will not be a problem, because I don't want to have anyone feel like their names are out there. But the first set of questions that I basically put together was about quarantine and loneliness. And this seems to be a pattern that so many people want to know about. There are people who can't understand how to stay sane during quarantine. They wake up and they face problems. There are people who are saying that they've been sleeping a lot, they've been getting up very late. We have people who are saying that they want to be happy, but they're gloomy. And I also see Tejpreet saying something similar in the chat. She said, I want to be happy, but I just can't get myself to be happy. This seems to be a common mood for a lot of people right now, especially because we've been locked up in our homes for so long.
Right.
We've been going through a very weird time, and it only, obviously, because of whatever may be going on in your life, everything's on level 10. You've accelerated all the emotions, especially the negative ones, unfortunately. How does one cope with that in a healthy manner?
Right. So I think it's a brilliant question, and I've been taking workshops around this a lot for corporate organizations, where loneliness has become a very, very big issue for a lot of people. Before I give you any other tips practically which you need to do, I think this is one of the very important things which I share, regardless of whether you're going through something what Aanam just mentioned or no. Your first 15 minutes and your last 15 minutes in the day are very, very important. And most people spend these 15 minutes on their mobile phones with social media. Guys, please be alert that is the time your subconscious mind is the most active. Whatever you do, think, at that time is going to multifold and become even more bigger in life. Okay, so if you're going through, or say for example, if you're watching some social media and just scrolling through and you are feeling like, oh, everybody's life is so great and my life is not very good, it is just going to double and triple with time, that you'll start feeling that your life is not very good and other people's life is even better. So these first 15 minutes and last 15 minutes are very, very important to train your subconscious mind. Okay, whenever a person, for example, you listen to this, right? When you meditate and you're in a deep level of meditation, somewhere you're able to manifest a lot of things that you're really working towards. That's the same what happens, because before you go to bed, you're not in 100% awake stage and you're not in 100% sleep stage. You're in that in between stage where you can actually put in a lot of things inside yourself. Same as for when you wake up. So try and do this as a ritual for yourself, where when you just wake up, you make sure that you visualize your whole day of how you want it to look. And not just visualize it in terms of what are the things you're doing, but also what are you feeling through the day. So you want to feel happy, you want to feel calm, you want to feel peaceful, you want to be meeting your friends and enjoying and feeling excitement in life. Whatever you wish to live is something that you need to somewhere start doing as a technique, which is visualization early in the morning. When you're going to bed, gratitude is very, very important. Okay, these two things, because I'm sure through the day there are at least one or two things that are really, really good that's happening to you. The fact that you're being able to watch this live right now also is something that you must pay gratitude to, for Anam, for actually organizing this. It's as simple as, that simple a thing also, that we must have gratitude for small things that are happening, because they all are contributing in our lives in some way or the other. So gratitude and planning through visualization early in the morning, make this a ritual for yourself for a lifetime. I would say, don't even think twice, but keep this as a lifetime ritual for yourself. You will yield results, trust me, and you will someday remember what I'm telling you, that this is, and just a way, even if you think this helps you and you want to thank me, just spread it to 3 more people in your life. And I think that's where the work will be done. I don't even need a thank you from you. I want you to share it with 3 more people at least. Okay. Other than that, how do you deal with loneliness? I know it's been happening for a lot of people. What's important is to connect with your loved ones. It could be possible that you've lost connection with a lot of people through the years of working, or as you've grown up, things have changed, connections have changed, people around you have changed. Try and connect with people who have been childhood buddies for you, somebody who you've thought of. These are the times to reconnect with people a lot more. Okay, the thing is that brings out a sense of happiness in us, which is, I think, very, very important. Also, do some level of exercise. Exercise helps you. Now, a lot of people have this habit, and because it's lockdown period, they're laying on their bed for hours and hours watching Netflix, or just going through social media and stuff. You need to get up from your place to change your energy. Okay, mind and body both have a very strong connection to each other. And if your mind is feeling absolutely dull, make sure that your body is doing the part to cover that up. Okay, and similarly, if your body is feeling very dull, make sure that your mind is doing to cover up for that. So even if you're feeling that for hours you've been in one place, please get up from that place, move around, go to the window, take a walk. If you can go down and take a run, do that, but you need to do some form of exercise. There are a lot of people who are doing online trainings right now, a lot of dance sessions happening online. There's so much access to all these things right now, so please indulge yourself in some of these things. If, say, none of these things are working out for you, again, I come back to journaling. Write down what you're feeling. Do not suppress it. Please write down what you're feeling. The moment that comes out, there's space to feel something better inside. Okay. And it's needed for you to keep doing that release regularly. Only then you will be able to change what's happening within. Other than that, very important, and I think I'll always endorse this, is that please consult a therapist if need be. Please do not think twice. Maybe just 2 sessions sometimes can help you. Like, I've had clients just 2-3 sessions and they're up and about. I've had clients, of course, who've been there for 3-4 months also with me. But both the sides work. It just depends on how soon you want to bounce back, where your willingness is also there, and of course the therapist helps you out one-on-one to deal with that. So please keep doing that. If you feel that, somewhere family also needs it with you, make it a family therapy. I think that has worked really brilliantly for some of my youngsters that I work with, because there's a lot of, misunderstanding, or maybe a lot of communication gap that's there between parents and children. And I think that also needs to get covered time and again. Watch your Netflix, watch your movies, that's fine, but reduce your screen time and actually get into practical work where your mind and body both are involved. Okay, it's fine to have screen time, but a limited screen time, because that's a static thing that you're in one place and there's no movement. Okay, however, when you do tasks, or you're following your hobbies, or you're doing something that you really love to do, sometimes as simple as, like, when I felt low through this whole journey of being home at 6 months, because I'm somebody who's always out and, doing things here and there and traveling. I mean, what I've done for myself is I start cooking, because I think that makes me feel more connected to myself, though I'm not somebody who cooks very regularly, but these are the times when I feel like nothing's working. I feel cooking is really good thing, because food makes me happy too, somewhere. So I think that really works. So find out what is that one thing that works for you and start doing that. Yeah. Listen to a lot of music also. I think that's a very good healer. Music and dance work brilliantly. Try and indulge yourself in one of these two.
That's so amazing. I'm seeing the chat go up. There are a couple of questions in the chat that I'm skipping because they're already in the PPT that I have that I'm sharing screen for. We will come to that. But from the chat, I see some common questions between Tehseen, Shelja, Kruti, Nabia, and Samruddhi. They're all talking about how to cope with things like societal pressure for body shaming, dealing with these kinds of, overthinking. Basically, it seems to be a very common question. I also am someone who suffers from overthinking very, very massively. Sometimes I've only recently learned to tell myself, acha chalo, switch off. But otherwise, that subconscious level of just overthinking things and situations that have not happened, that are not likely to happen also, but your brain has gone in that direction. And I also have Kriti and Nabia asking about how to deal with things like anger management, dealing with things like getting angry really fast when you actually don't want to get angry. You want to be patient, you want to be happy, but things that just kind of irritate you and get you, get the better of you, I guess, in the moment. Would something like meditation help them, or would, like, if they had active workout lives, would that help them with their patience levels? What can we tell them for something like that?
Understand
You're on
one
mute.
thing that sorry, understand one thing, that somewhere, whether it's overthinking, whether it is anger, whether it's irritation, frustration, whatever you're going through, what's happening is that the energy levels in your body have really risen. Okay, right now, because we are at home, not exertion of energy is happening, a lot of energy is not getting exerted, and thus that is creating all this. So they say, right, an empty mind is a devil's workshop. So because we are not doing a lot of work, it's eventually becoming a devil's workshop. So what we need to do is we need to start actually working on this very, very closely, which is to start doing something which is an activity for you. So like a lot of you said, that you can start your workout routines, you can start doing a lot of exercise, or start dancing if you feel like, whichever medium you really, really connect to, start doing that. For people who are going through a lot of anxiety, overthinking, keeping aside people who are going through depression, please do not do this. If it is any form of moderate or severe depression, or even anxiety, if it is moderate or severe, for those people, please avoid doing meditation. For all others, meditation is great. Early morning also, if you sit for about 5-10 minutes when you wake up, just silently. Yeah, a lot of people come and tell me that, you know what, ma'am, it's very difficult to sit for those 5-10 minutes, and I just want to jump up from the bed and get away from there. What the hell am I doing? I don't understand. But that's exactly what you need to do at that time, is to let those emotions come up. That impatience, that anger, that irritation, let that come up at that stage. It's not going to harm you, it's not going to harm somebody else. And also, once all of those emotions and that energy is out, you will feel much more calmer. So don't think like meditation is not helping you. Meditation is actually supposed to bring out that negativity first from you, and then gradually you're going to start feeling calmer. A lot of people give up meditation because they feel like, I can't even stop my thought process for 1 or 2 minutes. How am I even going to do this? But that's exactly what you need to understand, that at that time you are going to feel these things initially. It takes a long time for us to train ourselves to be able to sit peacefully for even 5 minutes. Trust me, none of us are Buddha. Like, we are not going to be able to achieve that. Maybe not even in this lifetime for a lot of us, but at least we can calm it down to a certain level. At least we don't run behind those chain of thoughts. We'll be able to just let them pass eventually. And that state of mind is something that we need to bring ourselves to. Even that would be enough. A lot of art forms. So a lot of people nowadays, there are a lot of sessions happening around mandala, or you have a lot of things online, internet. Like you see one which is drawn behind me, that's made by my sister. She's somebody who really loves to do. She's 17 years old, and whenever she feels stressed, she starts doing things like this. So she's also somebody who deals with it in this way, and that really, really helps. So people who can't do meditation by sitting silently opt for doing these things. They are also a way of meditation for a lot of people. And another thing that I'll say is, when you'll sleep in the night, for people who are having sleep issues primarily, is if you can keep any form of music on in the background, which is instrumental, no lyrical music, please. Go on YouTube. There are a range of musics out there which are for anxiety, depression, which are for people who are going through sleep issues or any kind of immunity issues that you're having. Keep this music on a low volume throughout the night for you. It helps train your mind at a very great level, because they are all built on certain beats which are very, very which are researched and are something that are really, really helpful for us. So choose music over leaving yourself completely off to think of whatever comes to your mind, because when music is on, the thought process automatically goes down. Okay, so these are some of the things. Anam, did I miss any particular thing that you asked me? Because while I'm talking, I may tend to miss a particular
No,
thing.
you've actually covered all the topics that I just pointed out with the questions. You haven't missed any of
Okay.
them.
Okay.
There's a particular question that has stood out to me that's come in a
What do you
couple of
mean?
times from Manoj Mehta here on the side, on the chat, and I think that his question is it's very interesting. And I think that, I mean, I want to know what you might have to say. He says that he's consistently compared with people around him, his sister, for getting good marks. One of his earlier questions on the chats also mentions that what does one do when you start developing all these negative, bad thoughts for your close people in your life? I think he mentioned his best friend earlier on. So, I mean, basis what you have just already answered, I would assume something like the meditation, which helps revive all those, kind of bring out all those and release them. Is that something that you would recommend to someone like him as well?
I'll recommend another thing here, which is very important, is to understand that somewhere every person in our life is a reflection of us. Okay. So whatever people around you are saying is something that you think about yourself too. So the fact that they are saying that, what, in some way you have this tendency, or maybe I may be wrong in words right now, but maybe you feel that they are better than you yourself also feel that they're doing better things than you in life. And the moment you start feeling that, you'll see somebody around you will tell you this. And I'll share this through my own personal experience. When I lost weight, about 5 kgs at a certain period in my masters, at that time I lost weight, and for a certain period it was okay and I did not bother about it. But after a certain point, it started bothering. I said, why am I losing this weight, and I don't like myself anymore, the way I look. It's very irritating, that I have lost all the charm on my face. And all of these thoughts used to keep running inside me. And you won't believe, every person that I would meet would actually reflect these same thoughts back to me, saying that, oh my God, you've started looking old, and, somewhere you've lost so much weight, and why are you losing weight? Do you have some stress in your life? And you don't even look good in Indian clothes anymore. And oh God, there were the range of things. Like, we all listen to these things when it comes. I said, I need to do something about this, because this is really troublesome, that every time I meet somebody, I have to listen to these things. That's where I went to trying to go back to my studies to understand that what is it that I can do? Because of course we can't change people around us, but what is it that I can do which can help me come out of this feeling? Of course, one is trying to gain weight, but that's not happening very easily. So what do I do about that? And the more that I started accepting myself for whatever I am at this moment, I saw that people started reducing what they were saying. Okay, it became less, 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 less. Today, it's come to a point where now, even if I gain 1 or 2 kgs, there are people who tell me, "Oh, wow, you've gained weight." So I think that is where you got to reach, where self acceptance is the most important. You got to start working on not comparing your own self with anybody else. Even if family is doing that, not something that we can change. The more you'll try to tell them not to do it, you'll have fights with them. And I don't think you want to get yourself in that space. Rather focus on yourself and try and accept whatever you are right now, and try and find out what are the good things that you could actually maximize further. So we all have weaknesses, we all have strengths. Keep strengthening your strengths even more further. Become aware of your weaknesses and work on them one on one. But keep your strengths even more higher and keep working on them and make something good out of your life through your strengths first. So become aware of your strengths and start working on that. Through that, your self acceptance will increase, and then gradually you will see that others will stop talking about it. Because the fact is that because of their negative talking, you are ending up consuming a lot of energy on what they are saying and not focusing on what you can do in your life right now.
That's so well put. And I'm saying that a lot of people are agreeing with you and thanking you for this response on the chat on the side as well. I We have about maybe 10 more minutes, so I'm going to try to
Sure.
go back into the PPT because I've put together a set of questions there.
Yeah.
So the next question that I have actually is probably, like, I know I've only put 4 over here, but I probably had around 50 of these on my Instagram stories. This is one of the most commonly asked things. I'm going to show you both the slides just in save time. One is about toxicity, dealing with loss. I mean, I feel like in any case, I feel like this is really tough for all of us, just as humans in this
Yes.
generation. But the lockdown and everything that we're going through with the pandemic has only made it tougher for us to be able to deal and cope with things that would have otherwise just been coping with one thing. Now we're coping with a lot. And definitely another thing that comes before this is anxiety, which has become one of the most commonly used words, I think, when it comes to mental health, where people are like, I don't know how to deal with anxiety. How do I cope with this? What do I do further from here? So I would love for you to first of all clarify what anxiety truly is from a literal sense, not from the loosely used word kind of sense. Because I feel like a lot of these words just become
Yeah.
pop culture words for people to use, and it's not
True.
right. It's where
True.
it's like when I hear people saying I'm depressed, I'm like, no, when you say you're depressed, you're trying to say you're clinically depressed, and that's a very serious thing to say.
Yeah.
So these terms, I think we all need to be a little bit more sensitive of. So your thoughts,
I
please.
mean, I think amazing, Anam, this is something that I don't know, this lockdown has started making me propagate this a lot. And I have spoken this almost in every session. And I'm glad you brought this topic up because it's very important for you to understand what you're going through. Do not label yourself unless you know, or somebody who's very qualified has told you that you're actually going through this. Because we all somewhere understand the law of attraction, right? The more that you're going to talk about and you're going to say it, that's actually going to happen in your life. So there's another side to look at it from a spiritual aspect, which is whatever you say happens with time. So be very careful of the words that you use for yourself. Talking about the difference between anxiety, I mean, I would call it as the difference between worry and anxiety. All of us go through worry at times in our life, and it's just a very normal feeling to have. Okay, we all have felt worried when we were supposed to give exams. We all have felt worried when there's a party that you need to organize and you have to get things together, or when you have to go through a performance. I mean, wherever we are, we've all felt worried at times, and that's just very normal for you to feel. A lot of people have started labeling it as anxiety, and that's fine, because if it's a mild level of anxiety, it's okay for you to say that. I'm feeling anxious is what you can say. But however, it is an anxiety disorder only when, one, that it prolongs for at least minimum 2 weeks. Okay, whenever you feel that you are feeling this emotion for continuously for 2 weeks, every day there's something happening and you're having palpitations, so it's also accompanied with a lot of physiological symptoms. Okay, you're having palpitations, or you're feeling sweating, or your body becomes absolutely numb, or your muscles become very very tight. If you have any of these symptoms and it's prolonging for 2 weeks, then it is something that seriously needs help and medication too. Okay, other than that, the little bit of whatever we go through is just very natural. Also, the symptoms that come along with it is a lot of eating. So you'll have either extreme eating, which is a lot, or either you will have loss of eating completely. Okay, your sleep cycles are going to suffer in some way or the other. Again, either it'll be insomnia or either it'll be excessive sleeping. You lose interest in a lot of things. Now, a lot of symptoms that I'm talking about right now are overlapping with depression and anxiety. These are the symptoms that are, a lot of them are common between the two. However, anxiety in itself has a lot to do with physical body changes that you see and a lot of overthinking that is happening. However, in depression, there is a lot of numbness that you will feel. You will want to isolate yourself completely. In anxiety, not necessarily you would want to isolate yourself. But what also follows is a loss of interest in a lot of things, especially in depression. So all you'll be doing is just sleeping, just chilling on your bed, and you'll not want to go out, talk to anybody. So you'll feel like completely getting yourself off, and you feel like nothing's going to help you. There's a lot of complete hopelessness feeling that comes in. When you're having these kind of things, then guys, it's important for you to seek help. Don't take it lightly, please. This is something that has to do a lot of with the chemicals in your body. It's not as simple to do with thought process only. So please seek help either from a psychologist first, and if you feel it's extreme and something that you really need immediate help for, go directly to a psychiatrist. With time, the psychiatrist will definitely recommend a psychologist alongside. So we always work hand in hand. Okay, when we know that the issue is really really severe, a psychiatrist will always say take help from a psychologist too, because changing your thought process is important. Those patterns are very very important, because you need to work on those patterns to be able to come out of it from the root cause. Temporarily medications are helping you, but root cause needs to be resolved too. Okay, so that's the difference between anxiety, depression, and understanding this is very very important. Also, don't keep labeling yourself. A lot of people say I'm OCD about this. I would say don't even use those terms. Say that, yeah, I'm a little perfectionist about this. Using that term is okay, but try avoiding using these terms. They're very sensitive terms and also have a very great impact on the mind. I think we need to be a little more sensitive towards that. A lot of people also ask the question on the presentation, Anam, that you shared, is that how do you deal with loss, or if
Loss,
there are people,
friendships, people who
yeah,
passed away. Yes, lots of
right,
that.
right. So I think it's very important is that a lot of us, sometimes when we lose somebody, we feel like we've had this some connection which is not complete. Okay, and that's the reason why it's hard for us to move on. Now it's important for you to complete this connection. Okay, one way is to again journal it down, like literally write a letter to this person, whoever you feel you've lost, conveying everything that you wanted to convey. Because even words and thoughts are a form of energy which needs to be expressed, which needs to be let out if it is something that's troubling you. So try and put it down in the form of a letter to the person. I think that really really helps you move on. Also seek support from your loved ones who are around you, who can help you cope with this, because the reason why you're not being able to move on is because there's a void that that person has left for you all of a sudden, and you want to make sure that you fill in that void with something. So either you do something that you love to do, or you either talk to people who you have a really strong connection with. I think one of these two things will definitely help you.
That's so nice. I feel like the commonality between a lot of things you said was being able to understand yourself, acknowledging what you're going through. Journaling is definitely a very common theme, and I was silently in my head happy about a few things that you said, because I realized that I do practice a few of them. I do.
That's very
I've
nice.
been I've been doing this journal and letter to people thing since I was before. I think I was in my teens or when I was in my early 20s. teens. And I feel like it's very therapeutic to sit down and just acknowledge everything to yourself. And, I said this in one of my recent Self-Care Sunday videos, from a very non-psychologist perspective of dealing with loss. And I say this not loss that is when someone passes away. I'm saying this loss from the point of view of someone who's just no longer in your life.
Right.
We've all had incidences where either friendships have gone sour, or romantic relationships have gone sour, or family, relationships have gone sour. And I think what we need to understand is sometimes people are just meant to be in your life for a certain period of time. And from the spiritual or vibe side of it, I guess their purpose or your purpose in their life has been fulfilled, or their purpose in your life has been fulfilled. And so much of this has to do with just making peace, saying it to yourself that this has happened. And now we need to, it's like reaching a speed breaker on the road and saying, okay, now we need to go over it. And of course, if you need help going over it, then you must get help going over it. You must help breaking stigmas and stereotypes, and understanding that sometimes you need help. Like when you go to the gym and you don't know what exercise to do, that's what you have a coach for, you have a trainer for. So even if you know where you want your mental state to be, but if you're not there and if you need help getting there should be no shame in that. Your mental health is as important, probably even more important than than anything else, because it's your sanity, it's what helps you just stay you. And as people, we're all evolving, right? We're never the same. Like 5 years later, I will be a slightly different version of myself. So thank you, Namrata, for just giving
I
us
also have
so much.
one thing, Anam, that I want to say is, though I've given you all a lot of tips to work on, but I'll say on the other side is on a lighter note, and keeping mental health a little more lighter than what the way we discuss it sometimes. Of course, it's important to discuss it that way, but other than that, I think it's important for us to calm down a little bit. In the slang that we used always, just take a chill pill sometimes. Don't take things so seriously. Everything in your life is just going to pass with time. Everything is going to change. Today it's different, tomorrow it's going to be different. The more you're going to feel that it's real at every point in time, you're going to carry it forward with you. You need to just let that go. Like when we are in a train and the train is moving, everything is just passing, right? It's there for a multi-second and then it's just passing. And that's the same way I think everything in our life just passes, and that's the way we need to start looking at life. I'd say just go, whenever you're feeling really, really low, just go and watch a stand-up comedy, on YouTube. I do that a lot of times, and I think that really, really works, because they sometimes make you look at things on a lighter note, and that's something that we need to do as well. Sometimes just understand that I need to just let that go and just be, just be the way I am, and just accept what life has brought to me and see what best can I do from it. So that's on a lighter note of mental health.
I think basically we need to channel our inner Geets from Jab We Met. That why are we here? Is it my fault? Then it's my fault. If it's not my fault, how can I cope with it?
Exactly. Very
So
true.
that's yeah, I love that you ended this on a light note, really, because I feel like so many people, I mean, it is a serious topic, and I don't mean to make light of it in any way, but at the end of the day, what you said is so right. Life passes you by. I was watching an
Absolutely.
interview of Jim Parsons, who plays Sheldon, as in Big Bang
Yeah.
Theory, and he said something in this YouTube interview. I think it was with one of the Jimmys. I don't remember which one, Fallon or Kimmel or
Not
one of the
sure.
Jimmys.
Huh.
And he said that, it sounds so morbid to say that, but like when you lose someone in your life, whether it's a person or a pet or whatever, and then you wake up and it's 10 months later and you're like, oh my god, it's been 10 months. And the way he said it, actually, I like, it stayed with me for a second, and I was like, that's so true. You have to find a way to make life just work for you as we go on. But guys, for
True.
all those of you who haven't had your questions answered or have really deep questions that we don't unfortunately have time for, I will be leaving Namrata's details down below in the info box. Please do give that a look. Apart from that, I will also leave the crowdsourced link that I always leave for all of these mental health kind of topics, just to make sure that you have everything that you might need. I'm always trying to keep things 100 real on my platforms. And if this entire session was able to help you in absolutely any way, I will consider this a great day. My gratitude exercise for the day is going to be, I'm so grateful for this session, Namrata, and thank you for making this happen.
Me too, Anam.
And I feel like we all need to be there for each other. We all need to be able to uplift one another in absolutely any way. It could be you guys cheering each other on in the chat. It could be us on the Facebook group that, I started this Facebook group, Namrata, a couple of weeks ago, where all of us girls get
Yeah,
together and talk about most random things, from sharing
how sweet.
recipes to talking about life. It's a lot of fun. So I feel
I'll
like
love to be
that
there. I'll definitely look for
I
it.
will add you. Yes, so it's like a safe
Definitely.
space, and it's only women. Sorry to everyone else, but it's only meant for girls. But it's turned out to be a really nice, fun, good energy place to be. But thank you
Very
once again
nice.
for taking out the time for this. I
Always
will
a
be leaving
pleasure.
all of your information for everyone else.
Thank
And
you so much, Anam.
happy World Mental Health Day to everyone. Here's hoping we're all a lot more aware of where we are, where we want to be, and how to get there.
Yes, a very, very happy World Mental Health Day to everyone. Make sure that you take care of your mental health as much as you do for your physical health. I think it's equally important, if not less or more. And if you need any help, I'm always around. Thank you so much, Anam, for this platform. My sister was very happy when she saw I'm doing a live with you because she follows you too. And she said, oh, wow, you have an opportunity to be with her. I said, yeah, that's true. But thank you so much for this. And I'll just like to share one thing, if that's okay with you, Anam, is that
Please do.
I'm doing a series of free workshops for youngsters. If you need details of that, I'll leave it with Anam and I'll ask her to share it. So guys, feel free to attend. It's from 8:13 to 9:30 in the evening. I have different experts coming on board who are going to talk about topics like procrastination, resilience, coming out happy if you're from the LGBTQ community. So we have all different experts from this space who are going to come and talk about it. There are 9 workshops across the whole month, and all of you are invited. They're free of cost. So please be there and share it with your friends and family. Let's make sure that we help somebody in this month because it's World Mental Health Month for sure. Thank you so much.
I'm humbled and honored. Thank you. I will leave a pinned comment to Namrata's details as well as the workshop details on this
Thank
video.
you
So
so
please do share
much.
that link with me. If any of you over here would like to attend, I highly encourage you to. Let's look inward and try to be better versions, happier versions of ourselves if possible as well. And again, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Anam. See you.
Thank you guys for this very interesting chat section on the side. Thank you. And you're welcome to everyone who's saying thank you. And thank you for being there. It is for and because of you that we're doing this here today. All right, guys.
Absolutely.
Bye. See
Take
you.
care.
Love
Bye
you all.
bye.